Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're doing a deep dive using excerpts from Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica. It's a classic text.
Indeed. And our focus today is Absinthium. You probably know it as common wormwood.
Right, wormwood.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is really get a feel for the picture this particular text gives us of absinthium.
Exactly. What are the main effects, the key symptoms, according to Boericke here? And right off the bat, you see its main focus seems to be the nervous system, a really powerful impact there.
Absolutely. I mean, the source just jumps right in saying it produces a perfect picture of epileptiform seizure. That's quite a statement to start with.
It really is. Sets the tone, doesn't it? And it goes into detail. Nervous tremors before attacks can even start.
Before the attack. Okay.
Yeah, then sudden, really severe giddiness. Delirium sets in with hallucinations.
Hallucinations. It gets specific too.
It does. It mentions frightful visions specifically. And then, loss of consciousness following that.
Frightful visions. That sounds incredibly intense. So it's not just about like the full seizure event itself.
No, the text seems to cover more ground. It mentions hysterical spasms, infantile spasms too.
Oh, okay.
And interestingly, it links it to poisoning by mushrooms and also chorea, those involuntary kind of jerky movements.
So a broader range of neurological issues. What about for kids specifically?
For children, yeah, it notes general tremor, nervousness, a state of excitement, and sleeplessness. So it's painting this picture of widespread nervous instability.
Wow, it really frames absinthium almost entirely through this lens of nervous system disruption, doesn't it?
It certainly seems that way from this text.
What about the mental state? Beyond the hallucinations, what else does Boericke highlight?
That's also pretty striking. The source brings up kleptomania, that compulsion to steal.
Kleptomania, okay. And memory.
Yes, and a very specific kind of memory loss. Forgetting what has just happened. Recent memory is just gone.
Forgetting recent events plus hallucinations. That sounds like a really difficult state. And there was a word the text used to describe the general mood, right? Something quite strong.
Oh, yeah. It describes the state of wanting nothing to do with anyone, just complete withdrawal. And the word used is brutal.
Brutal. Wow. That's a very pointed word for a materia medica, isn't it?
It really is. It gives you a strong sense of maybe the perceived emotional coldness or harshness.
Definitely sticks with you. Okay, shifting to head symptoms. What does the source pull out there?
The vertigo is really highlighted, and it's a distinct tendency to fall backward.
Backward, not just general dizziness.
Exactly. Plus general confusion, this desire to keep the head lowered, and another specific physical sign, unequally dilated pupils.
Unequal pupils. Interesting detail.
And also spasmodic facial twitching and a dull headache, usually felt in the back of the head, the occiput.
Falling backward, facial twitching, unequal pupils.
Yeah.
Very precise observations noted down.
They are.
Okay. Moving away from the head and nervous system focus for a moment. What other physical symptoms does Boericke mention? Anything stand out?
Well, the mouth symptoms are pretty graphic. Things like the jaws being fixed or clamped shut. Biting the tongue is mentioned.
Ouch.
Yeah. And a sensation that the tongue feels swollen, too large for the mouth, sometimes even protruding out.
Okay. And, these texts often have very distinct descriptions for urine. Does this one?
It does, yes. Boericke highlights a constant urge to urinate, a very strong odor, and a deep yellow color. Quite specific sensory details.
Gives you a clear picture. Any other body areas?
The chest gets a mention. A sensation of weight on the chest. And this is interesting. Irregular, sort of tumultuous heart action.
Okay.
That the source says can actually be heard in the back.
Heard in the back. That's unusual.
It is. And finally, for extremities, it lists pain in the limbs and even symptoms that sound like paralysis.
And just for context, the source also lists some comparisons and dosage info.
Briefly, yes, standard for these texts. It compares absinthium to things like alcohol, artemisia, hydrocyanic acid, senna, cicuta, and it suggests potencies like first to sixth, referring to the homeopathic dilution.
Right. But really, when you pull it all together, the overwhelming impression from this specific text is just dominated by those dramatic neurological and psychological effects.
Absolutely. Boericke's entry here paints this incredibly vivid, intense picture. Seizures, tremors, the profound mental stuff hallucinations, that brutal withdrawal, Plus, those very specific physical signs like the backward fall, the facial twitching, the urine characteristics, it's a portrayal really zeroing in on its most dramatic impacts.
So, for you listening, this deep dive into Boericke gives us a fascinating, detailed snapshot. It shows how absinthium's effects were recorded and understood within this specific system, this historical context.
Yeah, and considering the intensity and the specificity of symptoms described, frightful visions, heart sounds heard in the back, falling backward, it really makes you think, doesn't it? What does this level of detailed, symptom focused observation in these older texts tell us about how people understood and classified the effects of substances, outside of our modern scientific or pharmacological models? It's definitely something interesting to mull over.